Once upon a time, deep within a valley tucked away between the towering, jagged mountains, there lived a poor woodcutter and his wife. They were an exemplary couple, known for their honesty and integrity within their small village. Their neighbors respected and admired them, often seeking their counsel in times of trouble. And it was no surprise that when they had two beautiful children, a boy named Hisham and a girl named Zainab, the whole village rejoiced. However, this idyllic existence was destined to be shattered by a cruel twist of fate. The tranquility of the family home was invaded one day by a harsh, discordant voice. It belonged to the woodcutter's sister, who had arrived unexpectedly at their doorstep. Her face etched with arrogance, she announced that she had come to claim what was rightfully hers. As it turned out, their parents had passed away due to a sudden illness, leaving their home and possessions to be divided amongst their nearest kin. The sister, driven by avarice and ill intent, had laid claim to the entire estate. She drove the siblings out of their own home, taking possession of everything their parents had left behind. Overnight, the siblings found themselves on the cold, unforgiving streets of the village, unsure of what to do next. They wandered around, their tiny bodies shaking with cold and fear. Finally, the little girl spoke up. She remembered her parents telling them stories about their uncle who lived deep within the mountains, far away from the prying eyes of their greedy aunt. He was a recluse, but he had a kind heart, and perhaps he would take them in. So the siblings set off into the hills, hoping to find shelter in their uncle's home. The journey was long and arduous. By the time they reached the foothills, the sun was beginning its descent, casting long, eerie shadows across the ground. They were exhausted and famished, their bodies aching with fatigue. The little boy, unable to bear the hunger any longer, stumbled towards a nearby spring and lapped up some water. But the little girl, her eyes sharp with alertness, noticed something amiss. "Don't drink, please," she cried, pulling her brother back from the brink. "Saw crows circling above that water. It's probably poisoned." Just then, as if summoned by her words, a majestic stag emerged from the trees. Its eyes, like polished amber, seemed to hold an ancient wisdom. It looked at the children for a moment before turning and bounding away. Without hesitation, the children followed the stag, their hope rekindled by its presence. As the night deepened, the forest grew darker and more foreboding. The children stumbled through the underbrush, their hearts pounding in their chests. But then suddenly, as if by magic, the trees parted and they found themselves in a clearing bathed in moonlight. In the center stood a magnificent waterfall, its waters cascading down moss-covered rocks into a crystal-clear pool. It was like a secret haven hidden from the rest of the world. They drank their fill from the pool, feeling its cool water revive them. Then, as the first rays of dawn began to peek over the horizon, they collapsed into a peaceful sleep beside the waterfall. When they awoke, the sun was high in the sky, and the waterfall shimmered before them like a beacon. Beside them, the majestic stag was nowhere to be seen. Shaking off their sleep, the children realized they had slept through the night without fear. The little girl felt a surge of gratitude towards the mysterious stag that had led them to this haven. Little did they know that this chance encounter was merely the beginning of their extraordinary journey. Years passed and the siblings thrived in their uncle's care. He provided them with food and clothing, and most importantly, with love and affection, something they had been deprived of for so long. The little girl, now a beautiful young woman, became known for her kindness and compassion. One day, the young ruler of the land, who was renowned for his bravery and valor, came to visit the secluded village. Accompanied by his elite soldiers, he was eager to explore the depths of the forest and hunt some game. However, as the soldiers ventured deeper into the woods, they inadvertently stumbled upon the very oasis where the siblings had sought refuge all those years ago. What they found there changed their lives forever. The soldiers were captivated by the sight before them. Lush greenery as far as the eye could see, a crystal-clear stream meandering through it all, and the most remarkable of all, a herd of graceful deer grazing peacefully in the open space. Among them was a doe with eyes like polished amber, her head held high, her gaze steady and unwavering. It was none other than Zaina, the deer that had guided the children all those years ago. News of the magnificent stag spread like wildfire, reaching the ears of the young ruler. Intrigued and eager to test his skills, he rallied his soldiers and set off to capture the elusive creature. As they approached the oasis, Excitement filled their ranks, but they had no idea of the ordeal that lay ahead. When the soldiers entered the clearing, Zaina and her companions vanished into thin air, becoming one with the trees and the foliage. The young ruler, determined not to be outdone, ordered his men to pursue the deer deeper into the forest. Meanwhile, the siblings, now grown adults, had been tending to their crops in the fields when they heard the commotion. Drawn by curiosity, they ventured to the edge of the forest and witnessed the soldiers combing through the underbrush. Suddenly, they spotted something that made their hearts skip a beat. It was Zaina, trapped in a hunter's snare, her legs bound tightly, her head held low in defeat. Without hesitation, the young woman called out to the soldiers, her voice echoing through the trees. "Stop, do not harm her, or you answer to me." Her words cut through the noise like a knife through butter, silencing the soldiers instantly. They turned towards the sound, their eyes meeting the young woman's unwavering gaze. Startled by her sudden appearance and the fierceness in her eyes, they slowly lowered their weapons. Curious about the commotion, the young ruler emerged from the thicket, his eyes scanning the clearing. Away. When his gaze met Zainab's, his heart skipped a beat. He had never seen such beauty, such courage shining through her every word and gesture. Instantly, he knew he wanted to know more. Without releasing Zaina from the snare, he approached the young woman, his eyes never leaving hers. Intrigued by her defiance and admiration for her compassion, he asked her to accompany him back to the palace. There he would not only free the deer, but also learn more about the captivating woman who had stolen his attention. And so their paths intertwined amidst the rustling leaves and the dappled sunlight filtering through the canopy. Back at the palace, the young ruler kept his promise. Not only did he release Zaina, but he also reinstated her and her companions as the forest's most revered inhabitants, forbidding anyone from ever harming them again. But his thoughts kept returning to Zainab, the woman who had captured his heart with her kindness and courage. Soon he found himself visiting the forest more frequently, eager to spend time with her. Over time, these visits became a regular occurrence, and a deep bond began to form between the two of them. In fact, the young ruler found himself falling deeply in love with her, and after a year of dating, he proposed to her. Zainab, touched by his sincerity and attracted to his noble spirit, accepted his proposal. The kingdom erupted in celebrations as the wedding of the young ruler and Zainab drew near. People from far and wide came to witness the union of two hearts that had found each other amidst the chaos of their lives. The festivities lasted for days, with music, dancing, and laughter echoing through the palace grounds. Even the reclusive old man known as the mountain god came down from his hermitage to bless the young couple, a rare honor that signified his approval. But amidst all the merriment, a shadow lurked in the corner, watching the unfolding joy with envy and resentment. It was Zainab's aunt, her heart consumed by jealousy and bitterness, unable to comprehend why her own niece was marrying the ruler. She plotted in the shadows, devising ways to disrupt the happiness that seemed to come so easily to others. However, none of her wicked plans came to fruition. The wedding was a resounding success, and the newlyweds were adored by their people. Weeks turned into months, and the palace echoed with the joyous laughter of a new addition, a baby boy. Life seemed perfect. However, the couple's happiness was short-lived. One moonless night, the ruler had to attend an urgent council meeting, leaving Zainab to look after their infant son. Seizing this opportunity, Zainab's aunt slipped into the palace unnoticed, her heart twisted with envy as she gazed at the sleeping baby. "That house was mine by right, and I'll make sure you don't get it," she snarled, snatching the child from his cradle. Before anyone could react, she had disappeared into the night, leaving behind nothing but the echo of her evil laughter. When Zainab discovered the next morning that her son was gone, she was overcome with terror. Frantically, she searched the palace, but to no avail. The baby was nowhere to be found. She rushed to the window and looked out at the dark, unfamiliar landscape, tears streaming down her face. All she could think about was her baby, his innocent face, his tiny hands, his gentle sighs. She didn't know where to turn or whom to ask for help. Just then, she spotted a faint trail leading away from the palace. Hope surged through her, and she set off to follow it. Her journey took her deep into the heart of the mountain. The path was treacherous and steep, but she was too worried to care. She scrambled over rocks, jumped over fallen logs, and pushed aside hanging vines, all the while following the faint trail. As the sun began its descent, the forest grew darker and more foreboding. But Zaina pressed on, her determination fueled by her love for her son. Suddenly, she heard the sound of rushing water, and she quickened her pace. Emerging from the thicket, she gasped. Before her lay a deep cavern hidden behind a curtain of cascading water. Sunlight streamed through cracks in the ceiling, illuminating motes of dust that danced in the air. And there in the center, sitting on a rock, was her son. Relief and joy washed over her, and she rushed to pick him up. Just then, a cackle echoed through the cavern, and her aunt stepped out from the shadows. "You'll die here, just as your parents did," she hissed, her eyes gleaming with triumph. And with that, she vanished back into the darkness. Zainab, shaken but resolute, held her son close, knowing that she had to get him back to the palace as soon as possible. Meanwhile, the young ruler had sounded the alarm, calling for his wife and son. When his soldiers told him about the hidden cave, he wasted no time in reaching there. As he neared the cavern, he heard the sound of his son crying, and his heart raced. Bursting through the entrance, he saw Zainab cradling their son and rushed to her, relief flooding his features. However, the respite was short-lived. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, her face pale, her eyes wild. It was Zainab's aunt, and she looked terrified. "Help me," she screamed, pointing a trembling finger at the ceiling. The cavern began to tremble, and rocks rained down from the ceiling. The young ruler, ever the hero, shielded Zainab and their son with his body, shielding them from the falling debris. As the dust settled, they found that the cavern had collapsed, sealing away the evil aunt in its embrace. The weight of the rocks was too much, and the passage out of the cave had vanished. Zainab and the ruler cradled their son close, sharing a moment of relief. They knew that they had lost her aunt, but their family was whole once more. The news of the treacherous aunt's demise spread through the land, and people came from neighboring kingdoms to pay their respects. The young ruler used this opportunity to outlaw hunting in his domain, declaring that all living beings deserved respect and protection. He built an animal sanctuary near the waterfall where Zaina and her companions lived, ensuring their safety and happiness. As the years passed, the siblings continued to live in the village nestled between the mountains, their bonds strengthened by their shared experiences. Their uncle, the recluse known as the mountain god, became a revered figure, sought out by people from all over the kingdom for his wisdom and kindness. The siblings were proud of their heritage and honored their uncle's memory by continuing his legacy of compassion and understanding. The kingdom prospered under the young ruler's just and compassionate rule. His marriage to Zainab was a beacon of love and unity, reminding the people that even in the darkest of times, hope and happiness could prevail. Zaina, the majestic deer with eyes like polished amber, became a symbol of the kingdom's newfound values, her golden collar glinting in the sun, a testament to the mercy and kindness that now defined their land. The tale of their courage and redemption served as a reminder for generations to come that cruelty festers in darkness, but light always finds the kind-hearted.